What's good, fam? Welcome to another episode of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Durs and Jeff coming at you with Sam Davis, entrepreneur, nutrition coach, and sneakerhead.
Hey! So bad.
How are you?
So good. Everything's
Awesome.
been so good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I
thanks
appreciate
for
it.
being here.
We met at the All In Mastermind with Jason Phillips over this past weekend, and I know I walked out of there with a lot of clarity and many revelations. So did Jeff, and your hair has been on fire since you walked out of the room.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yes.
For everybody who doesn't know who you are and your journey into coaching, walk us through it.
My journey into coaching. I was an athlete in college. I played softball at U of A, and then from there, after I was done playing, I went into the fitness world. I decided to become a personal trainer, and after I was done with school, my parents were like, you really need to have a stable source of income.
A real job?
A real job.
Okay.
Yeah, because personal trainers apparently are not a real job, according to me. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't throw my dad under the bus.
He's just looking out for his little girl.
He is, yeah. He's like, you're just not going to have the life that you want, and I know you want, and whatever. So from there, I went to nursing school. I was in nursing school for a year, and I really did not like it. I really hated it. Like my classmates were waking up at 4 a.m. and were walking into the geriatrics facility. Then they were just so stoked to be there, so stoked, and I was not. I was like, this sucks. It takes a very special person to be a nurse, and I'm not that special. My hat's off to them.
Yeah.
They're really incredible people. But from there, I left nursing school and I came back up to Scottsdale and decided to train my clients from their homes.
Okay.
And we're lucky to live in a place where a lot of people have gyms in their homes here. And so that was really great and really convenient. But I still was working 7 days a week. My schedule was full the whole time, and I still was scraping the bottom of the barrel. So I just had to figure out a way to make training lucrative, and I could still travel. I love to travel. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I couldn't do that when you have in-person clients. It becomes really, really difficult to travel and do the things that you want to do, especially when you need to work for 9-10 hours a day to pay your bills.
Right.
So from there, I actually had an old like in-person training client contact me and say, hey, I need a nutrition program. Can you help me with that? And it was just via email, and I sent it off to her, and I was like, okay, this is an idea like this. No. And so from there, I actually hired a coach to kind of help me with the business marketing side of things. And from there, that's how Powerfully You was created 3 years ago. And it's been great ever since.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And what was like the thing you walked out of that mastermind with? Because sitting at that round table, even though I was only there on Thursday, and then meeting all everybody that was there at dinner on Saturday night, there's some movers and shakers in that room.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so to be in a room with people that are like moving at
Very quickly.
light speed, and no idea is too big. And I mean that's one of the fruits of being in a mastermind, is like you see how much further you can go.
Oh yeah.
What's left to be accomplished. It's really eye-opening. What'd you walk out of there with?
Well, I mean, kind of like what you said, like the amount of clarity that I had. I walked into the mastermind with so many question marks about my business. Like, am I even going to scale with the system that I have? Because I'm not scaling. Like, my business was going like this, and I had no idea what the hell I was going to do. So I walked in with a bunch of question marks, and they were all answered within the first hot seat that I had with Jason. Like they were everything was cleared up. I realized that I was in the way of myself, my own self.
Sure.
And that was kind of the biggest thing that I realized internally, is that I really need to get out of my own way. And I feel like a lot of business owners run into that roadblock, but that was the biggest thing that I took away, is I was standing in my way and not really believing in my value as a coach. And so from there, it's the value's reestablished, and it's go time.
Nice.
What created your passion to get into fitness? Coming from softball at U of A, what got you into, coaching and all of that?
So I I just loved the challenge behind it. Like that's what really got me into fitness. And then at U of A, I studied health and fitness, and I minored in sports nutrition. And the science, like I'm such a nerd when it comes to like the science part of things and how like food is broken down in your body, and you know, muscle, like when your muscle breaks down, how it's rebuilt, and like the science behind that. Like I'm such a nerd when it comes to that. It's so interesting to me. And that's kind of how, when I started learning about that type of stuff in school, that's when I was like, okay, this is where I belong, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I remember you mentioning, just very briefly, how your strength and conditioning program at U of A was actually counterproductive to making you the best athlete possible.
Yes.
What are the things that you've discovered about strength and conditioning to be true and worthwhile compared to the program that you went through as an athlete? Like what were the things that you would have changed?
I would have changed nutrition, honestly. Like I think the nutrition and how we recovered from those things, we didn't have any recovery time. We had optional practice, but it wasn't optional. You know what I mean?
Mandatorily
optional.
It's moptional. Moptional was the name. We'd always call it moptional, but it was like those days that we really needed to rest and just sleep and recover, because we're still student athletes. Like you still have school, you still have class, and like you literally have study hall at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. at night.
Right.
And then you have to wake up at 4 a.m. the next morning to get to workouts and everything. So I would have taught nutrition. We had to chug a shake before we left, but we really were eating whatever we wanted. You know, I didn't know at that point. I had no idea that I needed to get the right amount of protein and the right amount of carbs to recover from those type of, like, they were really intense workouts. Like they were really intense. And then we go on and spend 4 hours at practice, which weren't easy either. And that's the thing is, like, people are like, baseball and softball, they're such slow sports, but you don't practice
It's actually
slow.
a really ballistic sport.
Yeah.
Like when you're moving, you're moving.
For sure. Yeah, right. But the practices, you'd be going all the time, like all the time. And if you were an outfielder, you're running all over the plate catching balls, and it's constant.
What position did you play?
I played third base.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was third base. But we had to, when the outfielders were doing their drills, the infielders were running bases so that they would have runners and they could get their timing down and stuff like that.
Right.
And then vice versa.
Sure.
But in the infield, we would be running side to side, and there was only like 5 of us. So by the time you got back to the end of the line, it was already time to go again.
Right.
So there was 6-7 hours of work, and nutrition plays a huge role in recovery, and that's the one thing that we weren't taught, and I think it would have helped a lot, because by the end of the year, we were like, all of us were so tired, our bodies were shot, a lot of us were injured. So it just it wasn't good. Like the whole system was
That's jacked up. You mentioned
twisted.
you had to stop playing softball because of concussions. Is that right? How'd that happen?
Yes. Yeah. So I came into the program with 3 concussions, and I was just an overly aggressive player. Like it went to the point where it was probably stupid. Like it was stupid. I was a headfirst diver. I dove in headfirst to every, even home plate. I shouldn't have. That's stupid. They tell you not to do that, but I did it anyways. And then I got 2 concussions when I was at U of A, and my final concussion was I was playing third, and our coach would keep the field's like concrete for slappers, really. So you can hit the ball would hit the ground super hard, and since the ground was hard, the ball would go straight up in the air. So it gives slappers the time to get to first base safely. Like if you got one good hop, like you were there, because slappers are known for being very quick.
Sure.
So our coach would keep the field like concrete, and with that, we're wearing metal spikes, and when you run on that, they get out little divots in the dirt, and I was playing third. I was in, and unfortunately, like the ball hit one of those divots, and I turned my head because there was no way. Like I went like this to block my face, and the ball hit the side of my mouth. And I actually have a fake molar. It like knocked out one of my molars.
Holy shit! Smokes.
Yeah. So that was my last concussion, and they're really strict on concussions, and if you get like 1 or 2 points off, they dub it as a concussion, and that was my last one. So
oh my god,
NCAA was like, you have 5 documented concussions, like it's time to be done in the sport.
I never knew they took it that serious, because when we played ball, like we had hella concussions.
I'm more than positive. I know for sure I've got 3 documented.
Yeah.
there's at least 6 or 7 more on top of
Bro,
that.
I sit back.
No
and
doubt.
There's some games I don't remember. I'm like, what the hell happened that game? I was like, I didn't remember like I had a concussion or
So
anything. I never got diagnosed. But
Yeah.
there's games I don't remember, dude.
Oh yeah. There's a
so
handful.
bad.
There's a handful.
But
you
I never
know.
had a concussion though. I mean,
Yeah, until you get a CAT scan of your brain, and
Right.
the doctor's like, "Ooh,
Right.
you got
Yeah.
had a few concussions."
good Lord.
I remember when I first started shaving my head, we actually flew down from the academy to play here in Arizona. And, you know, when you lose all that altitude, this sucks all the air out of your helmet. So with a dry scalp, they sized my helmet, gave me a little face mask shake, and everything was good.
Because it was tight.
Yeah. Started sweating.
It was loose as hell.
Dude, we get into like halfway through the
gosh.
first quarter and fullback ISO. Boom. This is the last time I broke my nose. 'Cause
Yeah.
my face mask or my helmet just like slid forward on my
Yeah,
face.
that's the worst.
Dude, walk over to the sideline. Our trainer re-bridges my nose. They hose me off because my jersey's just covered in blood. They're like, "You good to go?" Awesome. Back in the
No
game.
way.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Got
it
the
is
red, white, and
not
blue
like that.
uniform, huh?
it's not like that anymore.
No, it's not.
No, you can't do that shit anymore.
That's
No, you
crazy.
cannot. Yeah, no, they've gotten really, and I'm happy that they have because
Yeah.
they're coming out with so many studies that
Sure.
concussions are just destroying people's brains,
Yeah.
and so I'm glad that they're taking precautionary measures with younger kids.
But you bring up a really good point in terms of your critique of the program. It's not that you were overtraining. It sounds like in your perspective, you were under recovering.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know how much nutrition, like if they've even considered it. I don't know how it is now, but I know for a fact that if I would have known how to eat from an athletic standpoint and a recovery standpoint, it would have been it would have been a game changer.
Do you think in the strength and conditioning community, because you know, I strongly considered it. When I left the Marine Corps, I got offered the GA position with ASU Strength and Conditioning. But with the volume of athletes and the little bit of staff they actually have, do you think that they have the bandwidth to optimize nutrition for each and every athlete?
That's a tough question. I think they would need to hire more people because that's a lot of, like, if they were going to do full on customized programs, then that's different. But I think that that's something that should happen. I think that's something, at least give guidelines.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be something that's really customized.
Sure.
But at least give them guidelines to focus on, and then make sure that they're focusing on it. Like you want to make sure that you bring them in, even if you bring them in as a whole and say, hey, is everyone doing what they should be doing?
Right.
You know, it's like just a whole another form of coaching. But I don't know right now at this second, I don't know if it's even being considered.
Right. Because one of the things that, you know, I've always questioned, because when we get done playing, like I've got teammates that have been so reliant on being coached. When they get done playing sport, you know, they keep eating like they did when they played, you know, and some of the guys that were like the most shredded, most athletic looking specimens are now bloated and fat. And like now they look out of shape. And it's like, you look at them now and they're like, there's no way you ran a 4.4. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's wild.
Like they look like it was a physical impossibility. Like there's no way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that, you know, that obviously plays into the reliance on coaching and the lack of self-accountability, but also the lack of education. Like nobody told us, hey, when you get done playing, you can't eat like this anymore.
Right. I went through that. That was like a huge phase for me. Not only was I struggling with, well, I don't play softball anymore. I've been playing softball since I was 3. Now what do I do with my life? You know, that was a huge identity crisis for me. Yeah. And then from there, I kept eating like I was being active for 7 hours a day. Yeah. And I gained weight, and I, you know, and then you, as if men go through it as well, but I caught on to it quicker before I didn't fit into my jeans anymore. Like my transformation story started when I put on a pair, like my favorite pair of white jeans, and they were stretchy too, which makes it even worse. They were stretchy jeans, and my dad was coming down taking me to dinner, and I literally got in the car and they ripped like nice. I had to get squeezed really hard into them, and I was like, this is gonna be an uncomfortable dinner, but like I've been wearing leggings and softball shorts for the whole year, so I don't really wear anything else. And but yeah, they ripped, and it was one of those things where that was a game changer for me. That was like my moment where I was like, okay, I got to get my shit together because something's got to change, because I'm eating like shit, and
Right.
my body's it's showing.
Letting you know.
Yeah.
How'd you begin to deal with that identity crisis? Because I feel like a lot of us athletes have faced that, like leaving football, then finding out like, what the hell's next? Let me try bodybuilding. Let me try this next thing. How'd you deal with it?
I started running, to be honest. Like I would run with my dog, and
I feel like that's the only two places you can really go when it's over before like you find your thing, the next thing. You either go bodybuilding or you go straight cardio.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because, you're forced to do all these crazy Olympic lifts and I was like, I'm never stepping foot in the weight room again.
That's where my brother is. He fights MMA and he's like, I hate lifting weights.
Yeah, my brothers hate that stuff too. It's wild.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm not going back in there. So for a good year, I was just running, and then realized it still wasn't giving me, giving my body what it needed.
Right.
And then I needed something to compete with. And then I realized that the competition is within you. You're not playing a team sport anymore. So you got to find something that drives you.
Sure.
And so that was like, okay, now what can I do with my body? Like I was an athlete. That's what I was trained to do. Now what can I train to become? And then I was training for a triathlon actually. And I had the biking down, the running down was great, but I don't swim well. Like I sink. I don't.
Don't you ever point at me on the swimming, bro. Max, don't even look at me. Our cameraman Max.
So
You guys,
I pointed.
Okay, there's a story here, and I have to hear it.
So we were up in Madison at the CrossFit Games last year, and Madison just got lakes everywhere.
we can end here. It's all right.
There's a swim event and whatnot. And we're cruising by this lake on the way to the venue to do some interviews and whatnot. And Jeff just looks out the window and he's like, "Yeah, I can't swim." Like, what? You're a grown ass man. What do you mean you can't swim? And obviously all the stereotypical jokes,
right,
whatever. And he's like, "Nah, man, seriously, like, I sink." I'm like,
my legs are dense, bro.
Yes,
I got too much of
that's the same problem that I have.
too much drag.
See, way too much drag.
Yes. I told you. I used to be able to swim. I'm telling you, like swim like a fish, like Nemo status. But then,
I don't know if you've seen Finding Nemo,
bro, he learns how to
He
swim.
doesn't swim very well.
He's got that one wing.
I'm not. Call me Nemo then.
You know what
Call me
I'm saying?
Nemo, bro. So I used to swim good. Then I started getting, my legs got thick because of ball. And then it was like I would swim and then my legs just fall under like this.
That's okay. I can relate 100%.
Thank you, Sam.
Because one of my girlfriends who was supposed to swim at U of A and then got injured was trying to teach me how to swim laps. And my legs would just like go down. I was like, I don't know how to keep my legs up and swim. I'm kicking. But they just sink.
I just had this insane visual of both of y'all. Upper body paddling and legs just 90 degrees.
I'm telling you, dude, it's bad. It's bad. Like
it is bad.
I feel like I'm like kicking so hard that I'm like out of breath.
Yeah.
It kills me.
I mean, technically, swimming is a cardiovascular activity, so for you to be out of breath only.
I expend so much more energy trying to keep my legs afloat. That's the worst part.
It's hard. I'm with you.
God.
I feel your pain.
Told you. See?
Did y'all just become best friends?
We became best friends.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm just, the only one who understands, bro. I'm telling you.
Oh, man, you guys are a mess.
The only one who understands.
I'm over here laughing like I can swim. I can't swim for shit, but we're going to keep it on y'all.
Yeah,
Keep that up.
Oh, man. The other thing that we learned about you, I learned about you over the course of the weekend is the relationship struggle, right? Being a high-powered, driven, entrepreneurial woman, and just the incessant attraction of fuckboys, like why? And we talked about it over dinner. What like some of the things the universe could be delivering to you,
yes,
and some of the causes of it. But what do you think that why do you think that happens to you? Because you talked about just some of the men that you've attracted into your life have start ego tripping because you're from a financial standpoint potentially more successful than they are. At least that's as deep as we got into where the conflict shows up.
Right. It has been a struggle. It's a very hard struggle. And the more I think about it, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to put out in the universe that this is the type of guy that I'm always going to attract, it's the type of guy I'm always going to attract.
Yeah, for sure.
So I need to shift that mindset. And like, that's on me for sure. But I don't know what is attractive. I mean, I get why it's attractive. Like, it's the same thing from a female standpoint. If a dude has their shit together and is making money, that's security, and it's nice. Like, that's comfort. But from the roles reversed, I think it sounds like a good idea. Like, if you find a badass chick that's like guys are shit together, it sounds like a good idea. But then when you realize what it actually entails and like what the sacrifices that have to be made in a relationship so that she is successful, just like if the dude was successful, it's the same thing.
Right.
But it's definitely like, men have been trained from the day they were born that they're supposed to be they're the one that make all the money, you know, and they're supposed to support the female, and like these females are supposed to rely on them.
Sure.
And so I think that when that key is taken away, when that piece is taken away, you have to be 110% secure in who you are and what you bring to the table.
Right.
And if you're not, if there is one little ounce of insecurity, it'll eat you alive, because this girl in your life doesn't need you. She's got her shit together. She's making good money, but she's choosing to have you in her life, which is more meaningful than needing someone. You know what I mean? That's what I think. That's how I look at it.
100%.
But I think that's the struggle, is like finding a man that's 110% secure with who he is, where he's going, the money he's making, whether that is more than I'm making or not more. Like, I don't care. The money's never been an issue for me. Like, men that lead with money, to me, or it's like, it's an immediate write-off, door closed. Like, I hate that more than anything, because it doesn't matter to me. Like, I want a partner in life that's going to stand next to me and go to war with me, and not bail on me when shit gets hard, because life is going to get hard.
Sure.
And so that's where I've been. It's just the guys that I do bring into my life have been insecure, and sometimes I don't see that insecurity until 4 months in, 4 or 5 months in.
Everybody puts on the front in the beginning.
Absolutely.
Come
That honeymoon phase.
with their best foot, Yeah. When before I met my wife, I was always having this dialogue with myself, involved in, toxic relationships and stuff like that, with regards to leaving the security of the Marine Corps or being stationed in a not so desirable place like Yuma, Arizona, and like the insecurity that comes with starting a business, or the giant question mark that comes with being an active duty Marine. Like, where are you going to go next? How long are you going to deploy? All that kind of good stuff. A lot of questions that can't be answered, and where I always found security in myself as to whether to move on from a relationship or keep a woman like my wife was, if you can't be with me when it's bad, then you don't deserve to be with me when it's amazing.
Right.
Because that's what that's what the three of us on this couch are building, is something amazing, right? But to get there, there's a lot of concessions that need to be made. There's a lot of you got to give up a lot of shit in the very beginning.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's almost like it's way more acceptable to give up everything that you gave up to be a successful athlete, right?
Yeah.
Like, people give you a pass all day on that, but then it's like, hey, I'm going all in on myself. I'm gonna start this business, and people are like, maybe,
Right.
and that's not cool either.
And they don't necessarily, a lot of people don't get it, so they don't support it. And like, I've lost friends over the years, and I'm definitely distancing myself from people because they don't understand my vision. And if you don't understand my vision, and like, you don't understand what I'm actually doing, then you're not somebody that I want in my circle, because you're not going to help me move forward. And that kind of sounds a little bit selfish, but at the same time,
but you have
if they're draining your energy in a way that isn't, you can't reuse that energy, then it's a waste of time, I think.
Right.
I had to learn that the hard way, for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm learning it, and I'm kind of at the point in my life now where it's like, okay, head down, like tunnel vision. And I don't need to be in a relationship right now. That's not something that is necessary for me. Some people are like, I need to find that balance, but right now it's like, I don't know if I even could balance it. Like, in my last relationship, I don't think I was giving him enough time, even though I thought I was. It was a lot of time for me. I think it's a lot of time, but he needed more from me, and I couldn't give it to him.
Sure.
So it was one of those things where, okay, well, I need to step away, because I'm not willing to give up what I've created.
Right.
For a relationship, which I don't know if that sounds bad or not. I don't know if that's...
No, it does. And it's just
like...
But that's, I think, the base of like a healthy relationship where, you know, two parties come together. They're not there to fix each other's shit. Like, you fix your shit, I fix my shit, but we'll support each other in that process.
Yes.
And then an unhealthy relationship, two people are looking to fix each other's problems. And that's completely unhealthy because
they're not working on it themselves.
Yeah. And it's like, if you can't work on yourself first, you're not definitely not going to help the other person. You're just like in this volatile situation.
Yeah, and then it becomes toxic.
Yeah.
And then it's a mess. Then that foundation is gone.
Yeah.
Even if you are two really great people, then you ruin that foundation.
But what I notice in what makes or breaks a relationship, and it sounds cliche at this point, but it all comes down to communication.
Right.
100%.
But underneath that communication is trust. You know, to bare your soul, express your problems, and you know, just put it all out there. There's got to, I mean, that whole dialogue comes from a place of trust. You know, so that it, you know, regardless of how it comes out, it's not taken as an attack, a critique, criticism, or any of the above. It's okay. This is just how you're feeling right now. And like when me and my wife get into it, or she expresses issues to me, I immediately ask her, like, are you looking for advice, or do you just want me to listen? Am I just a sounding board right now, or do you want my opinion?
I love that.
You know, and a lot of people just, you know, you come at me with problems. You know, as a man, the way I've been raised, I immediately go into problem solving mode. Like that. So I want to solve the problem. And the majority of the time, that's the last fucking thing my wife wants. Damn it. Why do you have to fix it? Just shut the fuck up. And that's not how she talks to me, but that's how I received the message. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I just need you to listen right now.
Yeah, she just needs support.
Right?
Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
you know, and going back to understanding your vision, you know, whether somebody understands or not, it obviously helps, but I don't think that's validation as to whether or not they should be in your life. But the support of your vision is a prerequisite. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because the one thing that sucks about being an entrepreneur and keeping people in your circle who don't understand is constantly having to explain your next move or why you're not doing something, or you know, you're not taking this trip, or you know, if it's physical and aesthetics, you know, why you're not eating what you're eating, or whatever. You know, that makes things really challenging, and it's really easy to just simply, you know what, I'm just going to choose different people. You know, put myself in a room like the all-in mastermind where everybody understands, and I don't have to explain
Everyone
shit.
Gets it. No egos. Like it was incredible. Like and that's the type of room I want to be in. Like that's like I thought I was really stagnant, and then you get in a room full of people that are making, you know, 10 times what you're making in the same realm, and you're like, what have I been doing? Like what? I'm like, there's shit in my life that needs to change, obviously, because what I'm doing right now isn't working and it's not propelling me forward. So there's something in there that needs to change. But it's really motivating to get yourself in a room like that. But I want a guy that looks at me doing this and looks at me speaking or whatever and is like, hell yeah, that's my girl. Like that's my girl. Like that's it. That's all. You know, that's all I'm looking for. Like I don't need someone to buy me dinners, like buy me a house, whatever. No, I can do that for myself. But like I want someone who's gonna support me wholeheartedly and just at least understand the sacrifices. And if I'm neglecting like maybe time, like valuable time with them, then be able to come to me and say, hey, I'm feeling a little bit neglected. Can we have a date night once a week on Thursday? You know, like I think that like valuable time, you can spend time together. Like if you're sitting on the couch working, it's not, some people think that's time together, but it's not. You're not talking, you're not present. Yeah, exactly. And so a communicator and someone who supports everything that I do wholeheartedly that's it. That's all I want. You know, like and that's hard to find.
Ray Dalio in his book Principles talks about radical transparency, and he's talking from a business standpoint, but it plays out in real life. It's like putting everything on the table. So he says if somebody makes a mistake in that company, they missed a trade, they forgot to put the money in or whatever, they don't bash them down. They write it on a ledger. They look at it and say, okay, next time we're going to learn from this situation so it doesn't happen again, but it keeps you accountable.
Right.
And then it's like he found out running he calls it a meritocracy, where everything's based off the merit system.
Right.
It's not putting people's heads on a stake, essentially, but it's learning from those mistakes and growing from it.
And the unit as a whole can learn from one person's mistake, as opposed to just dealing with it with you. And then having to deal with it with you,
right?
And then having to deal with it with me.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this happened once. Everybody needs to know about it, absent of ego and consequence. Right. So now everybody's put on notice. Don't do it again.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it goes to what you're talking about in relationships or business or anything. If you're radically transparent about everything that's happening in that situation, then you could work through any situation that comes, because now both parties understand. Like you talk about love languages. This is how I need to be spoken to. This is how I need to be heard. And then you can collaborate with each other from there. But if you're not speaking, nobody's going to know. Like everything falls on deaf ears, right?
And we as human beings just kind of, it's real easy to get in a routine, you know? And, life throws us curveballs.
Right.
You know, no pun intended. Softball player, right? But, that momentary disruption, if you're not communicating effectively, derails things,
absolutely.
And it's amazing to me how something as little as, instead of sitting down at dinner with my family, I got to take this call because I'm working on this course or whatever, and this is the only time I could get on the phone today or whatever. How something that as little as that, you know what I mean? Anything left unsaid, like, hey, instead of just coming to me and saying, I'd appreciate it if you went out of your way to make sure that you could be here for dinner.
Right.
Just, what oftentimes happens is they don't say anything.
Right. And then resentment
it festers. And they at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, you feel like you got to pass. So if it happens again, you don't think nothing of it, but the other side of that is, he fucking did it again. Now it turns into, he doesn't want time with the family. All these stories get created. You know what I'm saying? And it all could have been fixed in the very beginning if you had just addressed it in the here and now. And that's like when I hear people talking about, this horrible relationship they're in or why it ended or whatever. It's like it all, 9 times out of 10 comes down to communication.
Always.
Yeah.
To dive a little bit deeper, you had a beautiful story about this compass that you had as a tattoo on your arm, and it's relates to relationship and friendship in a way. Could you just go into that story? And like that's the positive side of like a relationship on a strong foundation. In my eyes.
So my very best friend, she was my sister in life. I don't have a sister. I have 2 younger brothers, but I always wanted a sister. So she was like my sister in life, and we were best friends. Couldn't be separated if you tried. And she was, my freshman year in college, she was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And so she was in the hospital for 8 months or so. And she was going through really intense chemotherapy, like as intense as it gets, like quarantined, like nurses had to be in full suits and garbs, like to see her. So she, so you don't get bacteria in the room and like all that fun stuff. Like it was pretty intense. And then from there, the chemo wasn't working. And so she needed a stem cell transplant. And, so she was lucky enough, she was put on a wait list, lucky enough to get it. And then after that, she was cancer free. Of course, the recovery is long after all that chemo and everything like that, but she was cancer free, which was it was unreal because there was a lot of really negative talk going on, like with the doctors and stuff like that. We didn't really think that she was unfortunately going to make it. And from there, we had about 3 years together. And I went out to visit her. She was in San Luis Obispo at the time, and she rode horses and did rodeo, and she was living with her boyfriend on this huge, beautiful ranch. And I went out to visit her, and this was in June, and then she would have been fully in remission, cancer free in August. So that was like the timeline here. And I almost changed my flight. That's like the every time I talk about it, I get goosebumps because I literally had texted her and was like, hey, I'm having like some family issues. I might have to change my flight and come like a week and a half later. Is that okay? Does that work with you? And she was like, yeah, like I'll have to move some things around. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I'll deal with the family stuff later. Like I need this trip. Like I would love to see you. I haven't seen you in however long. And so I went out there. We spent 4 or 5 days together, and then I left and she gave me a bracelet with this charm on it, and it said, wherever you go, we'll always be best friends. Like wherever the world takes you, wherever you are in the world, we'll still be best friends. And literally less than 24 hours after I left, I got a phone call from her mom saying that she had passed.
Oh my God.
And then, but it was honestly the greatest gift that I was ever given, where like the universe was kind of like, we'll make this decision. You can go out a week and a half later. And like, I don't know. It was all weird. It was all just a weird circumstance. But yeah, less than 24 hours, she was gone and they don't know what happened. Like everything came back clean. The toxicology report, the autopsy, like they did everything they could to figure out what had happened. And they have no idea.
Wow.
So, I have a beautiful angel now, and, but she changed my life. Like after that's when I decided to leave nursing school, to start my own business. Like it's life is short, and that's such a cliche term. Like I hate how people use that now, cause but it's so true. Like unless you have an experience that really does make you realize that life is really short. Like she had so much she wanted to do, like so many goals, and she wanted to be a nurse because of all the nurses that really took care of her in the hospital. Like they inspired her, and she had so many things that she wanted to do. And that's kind of how I thought about it. I was like, I have all these things that I really want to do, and I'm not taking action on them. Like I'm just like coasting. I'm just coasting, and I'm in something in nursing school and I don't really want to be there, but I'm not passionate about it, but it's safe. And I'm like, fuck that. Like it's, life is way too fucking short. And, so she's really the reason behind like why I started my business so young and why I kind of went all in on that, because it meant a lot to me. It was something I was passionate about, and I didn't want to lose that opportunity. Yeah. I didn't ever want like time to take that away from me. So, but yeah, she changed my life in like the best way possible. And I wish I could thank her, but I know that
you just did.
Yeah. That's very true.
That's awesome. I like that story because it reminds me of, have you read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson?
Yes.
Where the end, he's talking about his friend who he partied with. They're hanging out one night at this pool, and like it's this big party, and his friends they're drinking. So Mark goes up the hill, just doing what he does. And his friend, they're looking over this cliff where you can't see the water. You know, it's extremely dark in the ocean. Something happens, chaos erupts. And he finds out his friend ended up falling into the ocean and passing away and dying. So Mark was like, he had some dreams at night. And he's like, one of the dreams he had was his friend showed up. And he's just like, man, Mark tells his friend, I'm so sad that you're dead. And his friend says back to him in his dream, he's like, why are you so sad that I'm dead when you're so scared to live? And then he was like, from that moment on, he decided to like drop everything and chase his passion and go after it. Because he said life is too short to be scared to live the things that I want to do. And like that goes into the stories how like when trauma happens, that's when you're the most malleable. That's when the most change is willing to happen. And by taking action like you did, you've been able to create the success. So that's my hats off to you for doing.
Well, thank you.
That.
I appreciate that. It was, I mean, it's hard. I still like see her in everyday life. Like there's still triggers. It's so weird, but I more take it now. Like it's a reminder, like keep doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like when things are really good, I don't really see her, but then when things are bad and things are like, I'm like, okay, is this the right path? Whatever. It's like, I see her, which is, it's weird. Like it's still weird to me, but, it's just a reminder, like, hey, keep doing your thing, like keep pushing on, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really powerful, but it's the same thing. And you don't want to have a traumatic experience to get to that point. Like that's kind of the sad part of it all is like, you don't want to have to experience trauma to get to that point where you're like, I need to be passionate or, follow my passion, but it's definitely a kick in the ass. Like it's a powerful kick in the ass.
But I think that there's, study and psychology behind that instance simply because it's so rare that people are willing to do the deep work prior to or instead of a traumatic event to get themselves to a place where they give themselves permission to thrive and succeed. That's or just change their course. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There were a lot of people at dinner on Saturday night, but like there wasn't a lot of people.
No.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of the thing, right? When you start running in this circle, it's one of two things happen. You either surround yourself with people in that room or you go at it all by yourself.
The Robert Frost, the road less traveled, like you talked about.
And what happens in a room like that versus going it alone, when you go it alone, it's so easy to get trapped in that scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody out there who does what you do is competition, right? As opposed to there's 7 billion people on this planet. We can share them all.
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
you walk into that room and there's probably 2/3 of the room does what you do. They operate in the nutrition coaching space. I know at our table, I talked to 3 of them,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like that abundance mentality just moves the needle for the industry.
Oh my gosh. Game changer.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh, I love that idea. And they're like, oh, do it.
Yeah.
You know, not, oh, hold it close to the vest. Like that's one of the things I realized in the industry that Jeff comes from in tech. Like everything's a proprietary blend. Everything's an intellectual property, you know, and it's so hard to, you know, get the trade secrets. You know, Jeff was talking about a seminar series that he went to a couple of years ago, and he's like, I'm sitting in that seat and I'm not learning shit that I haven't already heard. And then I realized, like, to get to the nuggets that I need at this point in my career, I got to come out of pocket super huge, you know, where in a room like that, what Jason's built with All In, it's like, nah, man, we can all drink from this cup. Let's do that, you know, and that's really some of the nuances that I see in terms of like what abundance actually looks like versus what scarcity looks like. You know, like
it makes it very clear.
For
sure. No, I agree with you there. I think that's one of the things that I mean, just being in the fitness industry, you see it's unfortunately you see more of that than you see like the authentic, like everybody can win, the abundance. And I mean, I've worked with athletes before that are like, well, what if I give my program, like if I collaborate with someone in the same space as me, then they're going to take my clients. I'm like, well, then that just says that you're not confident in the value that you're giving. And then you're also not thinking about your people. Maybe your people follow you because they like your story, but maybe they don't want to be part of your, you know, fitness program, but at least they have found a space where they are happy and they're being coached by someone that is making them successful. And that's the value that you're bringing them. You may not benefit from that value, but you have to give and give and give in this space in order to receive. And I think if you're in it for the right reasons, you will always receive because you're giving out of like a place of authenticity. And I think authenticity is it's super rare in this space. It's really, really hard to find because this industry is all about me, like how I look, how I, you know, how I like how people see me. It's not about you. It's not, you know, it's not. You're in a people serving space, and you should be willing to serve. And if you're not passionate about serving people and providing value to people, then get out of the space because you're
100%.
fogging it up. You know, for people that are in it for the right reasons, you are really, because I can't even tell you how many clients have come to me and been like, I tried this plan, I tried this coach, she didn't care about me, this plan was a cookie cutter plan, and I'm just like, ugh. Like and they will say, I was scared to come to you and reach out again and try one more time, because they're scared they're going to get screwed, or you know, and it's hard to wean through all of that stuff, but
that happens in the CrossFit space all the time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Fuck, you know, like, oh, how many gyms have you been to? Oh, I've been to, you know, several before I got here, you know, because for us, you know, price is our first filter. So people are willing to shop before they come to us, and then they realize, you know, our value proposition is real, you know, and they're like, okay, like and now I'm in, you know, but you know, there's the things that plague my circle are lackluster coaching, you know, classes are too fucking crowded, not enough attention to detail, you know, stuff like that. And it's like, how do you navigate those waters as a novice consumer? You know, like you don't know what you don't know,
right?
And that, you know, for what you do, I mean, it's got to be the same thing.
Oh yeah,
you know?
100%.
It's like, oh, this is how everybody does it, and it's like, fuck no, no, it's not. You know, like, you got to stand on the rooftop and scream that shit. That is not how it's supposed to be. That's not how I do it. You know, absolutely, yeah.
Where'd you cultivate that mindset, the abundance mindset? Was it family, mentors? Where's that come from?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know. My parents have always been givers, like to everybody, like not just within the family, but like my dad is really like, he has a soft place for like kids that don't have a good family home. So he was always like bringing people in, like having barbecues just so like kids would feel like they were at home for like kids on my softball team or like my brother's sports teams. He was constantly like, my dad is such a giver. Like he's like, how can I help you? He's a fixer, you know, he's like very much, you know, and so that was, I grew up in a space that, well, I have both parents who give and give, and it's super powerful. I mean, so I think that's where I learned it. It started there. And then I realized, like, through my own transformation story, my own journey, I was like, I feel so fucking good. Like, I feel good. My body feels good. I look good. I'm confident. Like, I'm changing careers. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And it was all because I found this space that I was really, like just happy with my body, like really empowered to do things. And I was like, everyone has to know about this. Like everyone has to feel this. Like I want every woman to feel like to have felt that way at some point in her life. And so that was something that I realized I couldn't give women unless I gave, like I just kept giving value, you know? I kind of had to figure it out on my own, because it is a space like we were just talking about, where it's like, it's all about me, you know, especially when you put yourself out there. Like you do have to represent your brand. Sure. So you do have to, like, you know, practice what you preach. But at the same time, it's so much more than that. It's so much more than what you look like.
Oh yeah.
So I would say it started from my parents. Yeah. I think they were the biggest role models.
You were saying when you walked in here, that, you were on a call with a client, and it turned into a counseling session as opposed to a check-in. Yeah. And I don't think that people really understand that is also part of coaching. Yes. Is being aware enough to understand that your client doesn't always need the thing they hired you for. Right. All the time. You know, people used to make fun of me at the Village because a client would come in not prepared to give 100%, and I'd be like, you know what, fuck this, let's just go get coffee. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not in the headspace to get what you need out of this training session. Right. I acknowledge that. You agree with me. It's probably healthier today to go do that and figure out what the fuck where the block is. Right. You know, and have the counseling session, right, as opposed to a training session or a nutrition check-in. Right. Well, that's because you're a giver and you care about your people. You know, like a lot of trainers, the people that made fun of you, they don't give a shit. Like they're just in there to make money and pay their bills. And but that's what separates the really successful coaches and the really successful businesses, like fitness businesses, from people that are just mediocre. Because I feel like if you truly care about your clients, like I'm sure that client went home and I don't know if it was a girl or a guy, but told their spouse or significant other, like, wow, he really does care. Like it was an authentic connection. And that's really powerful, because they probably went to somebody else and said, my trainer did this for me. And then they're like, wow, like, how do I find that? You know what I mean? Sure. It's really, really powerful, especially when you pay attention to your clients. And I think that's really dope, because you got to be on that ride with them, man. Yeah, like absolutely. That's so fucking important, you know? Absolutely.
As you've been building your business out, you said an interesting story where they'll look at your profile now and see like, Sam, she's so amazing, I want to be like her. And then you mentioned like in high school, you weren't the most popular girl in the class. You were eating food in the bathroom.
The demons of adolescence.
Because like the girls would make fun of you, and now the same girls who made fun of you are now asking to be coached by you. Explain a little bit of like how that has gone, and like you've been able to overcome like being treated like shit, and then allowing them to be part of your community, be part of your platform, without holding any animosity.
When that first happened, like when I had a girl come to me and say, hey, like, remember me? I was like, yeah, of course I remember you. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, of course, I'm scarred because of you. But that's the thing, is like, they may have not realized like what they had done. You know, they may have not really put two and two together, but that was hard for me. That was a struggle, because I was like, do I want to let this girl into my space, like into my safe place with my clients, like with my tribe? And I bring the most awesome girls on into my program. They are just fucking awesome. I love them. And so to bring someone like that into my space, it was a struggle at first. But then I was kind of like, okay, I don't know who they are. Like I can't even tell. I changed so much in the last 6 years or however long it's been, you know, and I don't know who they are now. Maybe they have realized, you know, what they've done, and I still want to help. Like, I don't want to say no to somebody just because they were, they felt like they got security by making fun of me in high school. And first of all, it's high school. Like shit happens in high school that you just let go. Sure. Like you just get rid of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle at first because I was like, okay, do I keep this ego and say, hey, like, remember what you did to me? No, like fuck off. Or do I just give? And it was a good like place to self-reflect. And so I decided to give. I don't think anyone should be denied of.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting though, because that's one thing I've never had to face as an entrepreneur, because I left home, never went back. And so I got to start my business with a clean slate, like nobody that I had issues with in high school is with the internet and the book and stuff like that, maybe, but in terms of like where I spend the majority of my time and focus my energy, like there's nobody from back east that's a member of the gym, so how's that transformation been? Like they knew you back then and now they see you now. Have you had to fight any of that battle? Have you had to like fight the dialogue that you are not who they remember you to be in this space here and now?
I've never had someone that was like, you were like this in high school and now you're not, like I've never had anyone like say anything like that. It's more of like, I see what you're doing. I think it's super cool. Like how do I join? Which is really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. At least I'm putting the right vibes out there for sure.
Right.
But I've had people come back from high school and say, look, what I think you're doing is really, really cool. It's like cool to see, where you were and like where you've ended up. And a lot of people don't post their life. I mean, they do post their life on social media, but they're not completely open and vulnerable on social media. It's like social media is your highlight reel, so they like to call it,
for sure. Yeah.
So I try to be a little bit more vulnerable and stuff like that. So I do have like girls that I went to high school with that I've reconnected with because of that, like because of the stories I share and that vulnerability. But I've never had people come back and like doubt what I'm doing because of like.
I was just curious because I was a fucking idiot in my 20s, so I've had not to fight that that battle of differentiating identities, you know what I'm saying, from one life to the next.
I kept to myself in high school. Like I was very like, again, tunnel vision with softball. I didn't party because I was practicing 3-4 days a week, and then I was playing 6 or 7 games on a weekend. So I didn't go out. We had tournaments, and it was 3 games in a row and then 4 games to the championship on Sunday. So sometimes we'd be playing 7 games and I couldn't go out Friday because I had to be up at 5 a.m. the next morning to start all these games, the tournaments and stuff. So I was definitely tunnel vision, but that's where the bullying stemmed from, was just the fact that I wasn't involved in school. Like I wasn't involved in student government. I literally just played softball, and I actually got along with dudes a lot better. Like I'm just growing up with 2 brothers, and I'm like, I don't like to consider myself high maintenance. Like I'm just pretty low key. And so I have a lot of really strong male friendships that I still have to this day. And I just didn't click with the girls. Like it was very materialistic here in Scottsdale, and about the car you drove, and all the girls were wearing like juicy suits. I don't know if you guys remember the
juicy couture,
the juicy jumpsuits.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I never had one. My mom was like, "You want me to spend $300 on a velvet tracksuit suit? You are high. Like it's not happening, So I never had that kind of stuff, and I just kept to myself. But that's when the rumors would start to like happen, because people I was hanging out with these guys.
People fill in the gaps for you,
and then they fill in the gaps. So it was really my junior year was like a big, like I was eating in the bathroom because I didn't have anyone to sit with.
Jesus.
Not
any of your teammates though?
We were in different lunch hours. And Taryn actually went to my best friend who passed away. She was in a different lunch hour too, so I didn't get to eat with her. Like I was like totally secluded. But yeah, it was not fun. I did not.
I think that's awesome, to hear your story though, because there's so many people that just hang on to that baggage, and just bring it with them. And I'm sure that's a lot of what you deal with, especially in your on ramp, when you're bringing somebody on board. Like, okay, well, what baggage are you bringing into this relationship?
Yes.
Because in order for you to do your job, Like, you got to get rid of as much of that shit as possible so that you can focus on what's really important.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we focus on obstacles. Like the obstacles, mindset and obstacles are the biggest thing keeping someone from hitting their health goals. Like everyone knows that they shouldn't be eating donuts every morning. Everyone knows that they should be getting some type of exercise in. Everyone, like, that's the basic knowledge that people know. So now then the obstacle is, okay, like, what choices can I make for myself that will, like, empower me? And like, I'm looking at the donuts. I really want one, but it's not good for me. It's not good for my health. And that takes a lot of self-control. Like self-control is a muscle that needs to be flexed over and over again, but that just shows like self-respect, like I think. And so a lot of women come in really insecure and not having a lot of self-respect, and that just shows through their habits, their everyday habits, like not working out and not eating correctly. But switching that mindset to, okay, I'm going to the gym because it's good for me, and I'm eating this way because it's good for me and it makes me feel good, and I'm working better, I'm sleeping better, my energy is higher. Like, these are all choices, and they're empowering choices. And that's the shift that needs to happen. Like, it's a choice. Like, you have spent your life overweight, choosing not to go to the gym, choosing not to eat well. Okay, now you need to make different choices. Yeah. And that's empowering in itself. Like, I can't even tell you how many women like spend the first 2 weeks like really struggling because you are shifting so many habits at once. Yeah. And then they come back and they're like, this was the best choice that I've ever made. You know, they start using those terms and speaking your language, and it's super empowering. But yeah, I mean, I do deal with women that struggle with that. But it's just coaching in the right direction.
That's what's up.
Mindset shifts.
What's your vision for yourself and your company, Powerfully You?
My vision. So it completely got destroyed and reestablished this past weekend.
I know. Only us three know what happened, right?
So it's still now in the works. Okay. The framing is in the works. But my vision is definitely, like, I really want an empire of really strong women. Like, I want to empower women with everything that they do, not just in their health, but that's the foundation of it. You know, that's like sets a really strong foundation. And like, I want to do retreats. Like, I want to have people come and speak about nutrition and speak about exercise. And, you know, I could have a chef come. I don't know. There's so many things that could happen, but I do want to have retreats where women get to come.
We need to link you up with Layla.
Yeah.
Who's Layla?
She was just on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's the first episode you need to listen to.
Absolutely.
You guys would...
Yeah, I'm totally down.
Marry up super nice.
Yeah. But it's like people like that I definitely want to connect with, and if they have the same vision, then build that structure with. But yeah, we're building out the women's branch a little bit more. So that's going to change. I'm going to hire in a couple more coaches, and then my brother is actually building a men's branch of the program as well, like using the same systems I do. And we were going to call it Powerfully Alpha, but now it's going to be called Powerfully Fit.
Nice.
And so they blend together, and like, and I don't know if it should be just men yet. I'm not really sure, because it's a different coaching style, and so I don't want to restrict him or restrict the people that come to him just because of their gender. It's just you know, I just work better with women because I am a girl, and you know, I've been there and I can really connect. But I feel like some women want a male coach, and that's okay too. You know what I mean? So I don't want to restrict that. So may be Powerfully Fit, and they may be under the same umbrella, but they may not be like like partners, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, it's his thing, I have my thing, but it's under the same umbrella.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then where can everybody in this community go follow you and support you with everything that you have going?
So my Instagram is Sam Davis 19. Super uncreative, but it is very simple.
Was that your number?
Yep, 19 is my number, and my birthday is June 19th, so that's kind of the number that I've stuck with my whole life. Cool. And then my website is samdavis.fit. Don't look at it right now. It's being reconstructed. I'm redesigning it per last weekend and everything that needs to be redesigned.
By the time it comes out, it'll be done.
Yeah. Good. Yes. And that's pretty much it. I don't really have any other platforms that I work from.
Okay. So. How do they access the courses through Sam Davis Fit as well?
Yeah, they can reach out to me via Instagram, but all the information will be on my website.
Okay, dope.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, speaking of choices, you've made a shit ton to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
You're making a ton to level up. But what choice do you make every single day to empower your journey?
Oh, I love that question. That's such a good question. There's a lot of things that I choose. I mean, and I've trained myself to do it over time too. It wasn't something that I just wake up every morning and I'm like, I need to do this, this, and this to feel really good about myself at the end of the day. So this is something that happened over a long period of time. But I choose to eat well because it's a form of self-respect. And sometimes I don't get to the gym, but I'll do some form of active something, whether I like go on a walk really quick, or I'm stretching, or I pull up like a yoga video on YouTube or something like that. Like I'm going to do something a little bit active. That's also a choice to treat your body well, self-respect. And then I go through my list with work. Like work is something that empowers me. And that's something that I make sure and go through everything that I need to do. And if I don't, I have to tell myself it's going to be okay. Like my self-talk is really important because I get stressed and it gives me anxiety. And I'm just like, okay, look, there's only so many hours in a day that you have to work. Like you still have to take care of yourself. And I used to let it drain me. I used to like lay in bed at night staring at the ceiling, or I'd get out of bed and continue to work, because I was like, my brain would be going everywhere. And I've trained myself to kind of turn that off. It's still a work in process for sure. But that's also like, I had to put that balance in place. And that was also a form of like empowerment. Like I'm doing this for me, like, so I stay healthy, and that's super powerful as well. So it was just more of like kind of getting like my timing through my day correct, and then keeping my self-talk good. Like you've done a lot today, like it's gonna be okay.
Sure. That's what's up.
So.
Cool. Well, for everybody out there in our tribe, make sure you get out there and support everything that Sam has going on. We're excited to see what the new evolution of Powerfully You looks like. Powerfully Fit.
Thank you.
I'm really happy that we ended up in the same circle.
Same. Grateful.
For sure.
You guys are awesome. I'm so happy to have connected with you guys.
Totally.
You as well.
Yeah. So anything that you need from us, anything you need from our tribe, however we can support you.
Thank you.
We are a resource for you.
I appreciate that.
For sure.
And you as well. Anything I can do.
Awesome.
I'm happy to do it.
That's what's up. Until next time, guys. Feed me, fuel me.
Peace.